Hello, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Loblolly Pine, otherwise known as Pinus taeda, and its importance economically in regards to other animals and other species. Uh, I'm going to talk about its pollination mechanism, its reproductive mechanism, and problems in the future that may currently arise. If you haven't already heard about or know about the Pinus taeda, otherwise known as the Loblolly Pine, like I said, you've probably seen it because it makes up over 50% of the standing, or about 50% of the standing pines currently today. Pinus taeda is obviously a member of the pine tree family, which is otherwise known as Pinaceae. Um, part of this family, these are all gymnosperms, which means they have seeds that are unprotected by a fruit or ovary. Um, Pinus taeda is a perennial, which means it produces year round, and it has multiple reproductive events throughout its lifetime, more than one. Um, Also, basically, its geographic range of the Pinus taeda, it is from all throughout the southeast part of the United States. It's found in Alabama, Arkansas, Kansas, Georgia, Florida, Louisiana, all the way from the southeastern, or eastern part of Texas, and all the way up to parts of New Jersey. So it has a wide range of different soil types and different climates in which it can inhabit, and it's due partly because it's so adapted to many different soil types and is really adapted to a lot of various climates, but has some specifics, which I'll talk about right now. Because this is a well-adapted species, it can tolerate a variety of different soil types and still perform at an adequate level because has a fast reproductive life cycle. But it prefers mainly acidic, uh, moist, clay, and sandy soil types. And because of this, it is it shows why it's confounded to the southeastern part of the United States, where it's hotter. Typically, you get more rain. It in the forests that it is involved in, it's also mixes with other pine trees, other oaks, willows, the red maple. So it's found in a variety of forests all throughout um, the southeastern part of the United States and up to parts of New Jersey and stuff like that. It is also extremely important because it is houses many animals and is important for many songbirds. 20 songbirds feed on their seeds. It's actually is a nesting home for the endangered species, the red cockaded woodpecker, which is extremely important, and is provides food for many small mammals such as rabbits and deer. The Pinus taeda is a monoecious species, and that means it has both male and female parts, and it reproduces via wind pollination and is dispersed via wind as well. And this is part of the reason why it makes it's so durable and it can outlast many of the other species because it doesn't require other species for dispersal or pollination. These various mechanisms are dependent on a lot of abiotic factors such as pH, moisture, and temperature all throughout the world. So depending on these, the tree will send out signals or cues in order to start and initiate certain reproductive or certain dispersal methods. Because it has both male and female parts, it has a tendency to inbreed, and because of that, by definition, it is a facultative outcrosser because it gets its main genetic diversity through uh, pollination and combining genes with other of the same species in different areas, not all on the same tree. But because it has both male and female parts, it does have a tendency to interbreed, and that does cause some problems in development that I'll discuss a little bit later. These reproductive structures that they have, the female flowers typically form all year round, and the male flowers are formed at the end of a year's growth. And these flowering usually occurs in July or August, where they, due to timing and other abiotic factors, they send signals to disperse and uh, these begin pollinating each other. And once pollinated, then they begin developing these other reproductive structures towards the late summer and early fall. And when they develop late summer, early fall, they typically remain dormant until the spring when fertilization actually takes place. There, pollen is released and is initiated based on timing, like I said, of the environmental factors such as temperature and moisture, typically, and wind. Obviously, wind. There needs to be some wind, and it times it so that it can, when the time is right, it can disperse and become pollinated. Um, and then the cones, once it's pollinated, it begins developing these cones that around September or October. And then in mid-December, it has a majority of cones produced, cones and seeds. These cones, within these cones, there are seeds, which is what parts and begins the dispersal mechanism. So when they develop these seeds, here I drew a little picture. Okay, so here you have an undeveloped, um, not mature pine cone seed, and these are typically green in color. And when they develop, imagine all this inner space is all filled in, and these are the spikes that deter um, animals from typically getting inside and eating these seeds. But when they mature along on the tree, they continue to grow and develop, and they open up, and you get the actual pine cones you see, the brown pine cones you see today. And on the inside, they have these little tiny winged-like seeds that develop, and those winged-like seeds are used to disperse. So when they drop, they spread out, and then during specific times, those wing-type seeds open up and they disperse, and they can fly very, very far distances. Some observed to be found over 91 meters away. Some have been found even kilometers away. And in each cone, there's actually an average about 45 seeds, but some range from 20 to 200 cones. These seeds are really important because they are very durable, and they actually go through a time frame of seed dormancy, usually 4 to 8 months. And during that seed dormancy, they have impermeable properties that actually inhibit or shorten the uptake of water and oxygen. And so this allows the seed to remain uh, in the system, the ecosystem, for a long time before they wait for the right conditions in which they can germinate via um, temperature signals and nutrient contents in the soil and moisture as well. Because the loblolly pine is such an important species in regards to forestry and timber production, these many plantations and the tendency to inbreed of this species causes problems and makes them susceptible to many various diseases and insects attacks that harm the trees, such as the pine beetle, the sawflies, the pine engraver beetle, um, and it's important because the loblolly pine has actually been moving towards more native northern areas, and because of that, it's actually been found in some areas, like some non-native areas, like Ohio. And because of that, it might mess up the ecosystem dynamics, and actually and the plantations make them more susceptible to diseases and outbreaks. So we may actually, because despite there being a rapid and easily expandable disperser and easy colonizer, they in the future years may be susceptible to these various infections, diseases, fungi, and insecticides attacks.